Guys, we've got some rookie running backs that we need to talk about. We're starting with Breece Hall tonight. Are you going Breece Hall or Jamar Chase?
Man, he came in hot. Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I think I'd still go Chase, but it's crazy how fast things move.
Breece Hall or 2 projected early 23 firsts?
Early 23 first.
Six. Yeah. If you said early, that's a big difference. If you say mid or late, then yeah, it's easily the first, or it's easily Breece.
So if it were 1 mid and 1 late, you're taking Breece Hall?
I'm holding on to the running back 1 in Dynasty for that.
Let's talk about that. The RB1 chain?
Yeah. And it's partly because, well, the running back landscape is trash cans and receptacles. It was Jonathan Taylor was the running back 1, right? And then after him, it was I don't know. Coming in the season, it was like Najee Harris because it had to be. Javonte Williams was in the top 5 by law because, well, we had no one else to put there. And then if you like the old people, you were like, well, Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley are in there too. Breece Hall, I've talked him up a lot. And I've said it before that he was a Jonathan Taylor comp and he was actually better than him in college. And he was. And he is a better player than Jonathan Taylor. Straight up, just football sense. But that doesn't even matter. What matters is that he's younger and he's popping right now and he's not hurt. And his usage has seen an increase in 3 straight weeks. So frankly, it doesn't matter if he's better than Jonathan Taylor. Community loves to hop on the people, right? That's what we love to do. We love anointing new things, new shiny things. I'm a little annoyed because I was on Breece Hall way harder than the community, and now they're all jumping on, and I have to jump off immediately. Now he's someone that I'm trying to trade in every league I have him in.
It's very interesting how Shane did like Breece Hall more than everybody, but he immediately, that just gives you a glimpse of how Shane plays Dynasty. As soon as everybody in the league goes, I have to have Breece Hall, Shane goes, I need to sell Breece Hall. Let me see what I can get for him. And that just points to when you're always trying to stay a step ahead, you're always trying to zig when everyone else is zagging. But you mentioned the RB1, and I put up a poll, Breece Hall or Jonathan Taylor. Now, this was a little unfair because Jonathan Taylor is in a week where he's not playing, and Breece Hall is a top 3 running back. So, I mean, of course, there's going to be some bias, but it was 38.5% in favor of Breece Hall. I think more telling was some of the comments. It basically said, do this again in January. It will be Breece unless Jonathan Taylor puts out a massive season. We know we've talked about his season in 2021. It was good, but it wasn't like Le'Veon Bell, Christian McCaffrey level, like dominant. After the season goes by, okay, Jonathan Taylor is now entering his 4th year. Breece Hall's going into his 2nd year. We know the primes for these guys are like year 2 and year 3. That's going to be like their peak, and it's also going to be their value peak. Once you get into year 4, year 5, you're starting to get into, all right, after year 4, are they going to give him a contract extension? What else is going to be added to the backfield? Like all those things start to come into play. It's going to push Breece Hall up to RB1. Does he deserve RB1 based off what he does this year? Maybe, maybe not, but just the way we're going to place these guys, he's going to rise higher than everyone else because he's younger. People think, oh, I have 3 years of Breece Hall left compared to 1 year of Jonathan Taylor. Doesn't always work that way, but that's how the perception is going to go. It's the same reason Javonte Williams and Najee Harris were RB3, RB4, just by default, right, Shane? Because there was nobody else to put there.
Yep.
And in reality, did you really think Saquon Barkley was going to get outscored by Javonte Williams unless Saquon Barkley was hurt? Probably not. But I think that's where we're going to be with Breece Hall. It's going to be very interesting to see where he slots in 2023, because I think you're going to have Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, and possibly even like Jahmyr Gibbs in the top 5 right away.
Yes. Yeah. So the top 4 this time next year, or after rookie drafts, it's Breece Hall, it's Bijan Robinson, probably Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor. And then I feel good that we've gotten all the way down to 5 before we're going to be like, oh, I don't know who goes here.
Like Swift isn't even.
Honestly, if he smashes, it will be Barkley at 5, because people will go, he missed 2 years. He's got some tread under his tires. If he leaves the Giants and goes somewhere else, like a good offense, I mean, imagine if you put him like on the Chiefs or you put it somewhere like that. I mean, the community would go crazy, and like, would we probably sell at that price? Yeah, because we're tempting fate with a, 6th-year running back or, 6-year running back going into a second contract. But we're kind of to that point where, like, after you get at 5, people are just going to put whoever they think is going to smash the upcoming year. Who cares about DeAndre Swift or Najee Harris, who cares what their age is? Like if they're not smashing this year, I'm not investing in a year 3 or year 4 guy any different than a year 6 guy.
So if you want to buy him, obviously this is not the best time in the world, but if you want to buy him, how do you go about doing it? What's your strategy?
Well, I'd prefer to offer picks if I can do 2 firsts that are not clearly like top 4, top 5 picks. Even if they're mid picks, I'm okay with that. It's when look back to our mock draft. We started to kind of get a little worried about like, oh man, this pick doesn't feel great about 106, 107. I'm going to want those picks at the time, but if you're telling me I'm trading away the 106 and the 111 right now for Breece Hall, I'll do that.
Right.
Other than that, can you add a first to a guy that has, I think, pretty low upside but is valued by the community? Can you add a first to AJ Dillon and get Breece Hall?
Probably not, but that's
that's where you start there. You try somewhere like that.
But also, and you can try 24 picks, right? Because, 24 is further away, so it hurts less giving up a 24 pick for a running back. But, again, I traded for Breece Hall in a league last week before the outbreak came because I knew the outbreak was coming. But I have to tell you, don't trade for Breece Hall unless you're in a league with me, and then definitely trade for Breece Hall from me and pay the market value, please.
Let's say you're a Breece fan like you are, Shane, and you're selling like you are, Shane. What are you making sure that you get? You want a package, but give me a couple examples of packages that you would need to get rid of them.
It doesn't have to be packages. It could be straight up. I'll take Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase straight up for him. I'll add to him to get Justin Jefferson because that's only fair. That's only right. I'll trade him straight up for Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. Players like that is where I'm looking. I'm not going to be absurd and go, well, you give me Josh Allen because, that's just bananas. No one's going to do that. But Kyler, since he's struggling this year, and Deshaun, since he's not helping anyone score points right now, is basically what I'm looking at. If it's a package, it's got to be multiple picks. I want a 23 and a 24. I want to split those assets up a little bit if I could, or 2 23s. If it's player, it's literally what you said earlier. It's got to be Waddle on the pick. It's got to be Jonathan Taylor in a pick, except that I don't even want Jonathan Taylor because he's an old running back. He's old. He's 23. But it's got to be something along those lines. It's got to be at least Waddle in a pick. It's got to be Higgins in a pick. You're overpaying. Like, you want Breece Hall from me, you need to overpay for it.
I think Shane hit a point that no one really talks about. Breece Hall is one of the few non-quarterbacks that you could throw in a deal and potentially get an elite quarterback if you're willing to add enough. If you're trying to throw in low-end wide receiver ones or low-end running back ones, that's not gaining any traction towards you getting an elite quarterback. Because the person's going, like CeeDee Lamb's a good player, but that's not moving the needle in a trade. But I think you throw in Breece Hall and a couple firsts, I think any quarterback's attainable. And there's only like 4, 5, 6 skill players that you could throw in a deal and people would go, damn, even though I'm not getting a quarterback back, I'm getting enough value here that I think I could go trade to potentially trade someone like Herbert or Mahomes. He's one of the few players. So take advantage of that window right now. I think that's a great idea. Good point.
Breece Hall or Kyle Pitts?
I think I'd take Breece right now.
Yeah, the market on it, I don't need to pay that much for Kyle Pitts because I've been preaching you need to buy Kyle Pitts lows. If you go out there and pay Breece Hall type money for Kyle Pitts, well, then you're doing this wrong.
Kyle Pitts and an early 23 second or Breece Hall?
Breece.
It's a little closer. I assume it's 1.5 premium, so I'd be okay with that just because my mindset is always I can replace running back.
Yeah.
And I do think that's the gamble with Kyle Pitts is he is not going to be replaced anytime soon by somebody else coming in. The question with him is, is he someone that is irreplaceable? That's the big question. Is he that good? If he is, you're not replacing him in a rookie draft. So I think that's the big difference. It's a gamble both sides.
Guys, we're moving on to Dameon Pierce. Are you doing Dameon Pierce or a projected mid 23 first?
23 first.
Yeah, I think I'll still take the pick.
Dameon Pierce or Hollywood Brown and a early 23 second?
Oh, I'm getting a wide receiver 1 and a pick? Yeah, I'm taking Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood.
Dameon Pierce or Devontae Smith?
That's Dameon a good
Pierce. I would take Dameon Pierce right here. Here's the thing. So this is what my thought process is on this, right? Devonta Smith is my wide receiver 3 or 4, I'm thinking, right? Most likely. Hopefully, if my team isn't ass cheeks, he's my wide receiver 3 or 4. Dameon Pierce could slide in to be my running back 1. Yes, it's going to be short-lived, and yes, I've preached trading him, but Devonta Smith is placeable. And I think he's someone that I could find in the draft next year that I couldn't find in Dameon Pierce. But here's the fun thing about Dameon Pierce. I could use him all up this year and then trade him for a 23 first, hopefully, or a 24 first.
Does that work? The reason I ask is because it feels like that's always the answer with running backs is use them up as you can, then sell high after the season. But I think that's kind of the flaw with someone like Dameon Pierce is he could easily be RB1 the rest of the year. He could also be somebody that they bring in another day 3 running back next year. And not saying he's going to go away, but if they bring in even let's just think of a comparable player to like someone like Kenneth Gainwell, and then they run a similar backfield, and you're just like, okay, this is annoying to where, great, the 15 points per game he gave me last year was great, but if that's the most I'm ever going to get, then that's just going to be an asset that's going to level off. People are not going to pay for that over the course of a couple years. So there might have been one window to get the first, and it was during the time where he was scoring points and there was a thought that he's going to be the long-term starter there. Now the gamble is if they don't do that, you could be looking at like the next Kareem Hunt or type player like that, and you're going, man, I wish I would have kept him. David Montgomery was a 3rd-round pick. I know it's blasphemy to compare Dameon Pierce as a 4th-rounder to David Montgomery as a 3rd-rounder, but is it that crazy? You don't know.
Are you going Joe Mixon or Dameon Pierce?
Man.
Mixon looks awful.
He looked better last night, but I think
based on offense is terrible.
Based on value principle, I think I'll just take the younger guy because they're basically the same thing in my lineup, yet one of them has no insulation. One of them is a high ankle sprain from bottoming out. So, yeah, I think I'd go Pierce.
Are you going Pierce over ETN?
No. But I don't have to because if I made that offer, I could get ETN plus for Pierce, and I would do that in an instant.
That's a pivot that Shane and I both talked about on a roster review that we're like, man, we'd love to go from Pierce to ETN in a second or something like that.
Yeah.
And we may end up with a better running back here in a couple weeks. So yeah, I love that pivot down, but I would take Pierce just for the market value.
Yeah. But that is an interesting deal. That's what like Pierce, people that roster Pierce should be looking to do is move him for ETN plus. People looking at ETN stats, but like, oh, that's not great. And they're looking at his usage and they're looking at his snap share through, seasonal. And then they don't realize that he's actually taking James Robinson's job from him over the last 2 weeks. And that it's about to happen. He's about to explode. So I love that deal.
Dameon Pierce or a 23 second and a 24 first?
I want the 24 first.
Yeah. I think that's where you take the package of picks and you just pretend like you never had Dameon Pierce. Thank you. I turned a late second rookie pick into first and a second. The reason you take that trade is because can I buy a decent running back with a 23 second? Could I buy Miles Sanders for a 23 second? So like you could look at that trade and go, all right, even if I'm contending and I'm probably starting Dameon Pierce the last 4 weeks, I can net that first and probably shop that 23 second and find the right person that will give me a short-term running back that could produce similar to Dameon Pierce. And at the end of the season, the only thing I lose out on is I probably have higher upside with my asset with Dameon Pierce because they don't draft anybody. His value goes up. One of these running backs you buy, their value is probably going to bottom out. But I think short-term, you win that deal by a lot. So if I'm a contender, I'm trying to trade him for a trade like that.
Guys, we got to talk Ken Walker. He got his opportunity. Rashad Penny, unfortunately, is hurt, but predictably is hurt. So let's start off. Ken Walker or Dameon Pierce?
The correct answer is Ken Walker, but the real super correct answer is trade Dameon Pierce for Ken Walker plus.
Can you get a plus, though, after this injury? And the way the Seattle offense is basically looking better than Houston in every capacity. So, I don't think you can downgrade either player. So I don't think you can get Ken Walker for Dameon Pierce at this point.
I do. I know our community. Our community loves a scrappy underdog, and that's what Dameon Pierce is. And also, what Dameon Pierce is? He's a guy that half the community love to pump up and go, no, you guys are stupid just because his analytical profile is poor and his tape isn't tape stuff. What do you call that when you watch tape? Whatever.
Tape stuff.
Yeah. Just because he doesn't smash there, you don't know what you're talking about. This kid's the next coming of James Robinson. That's the comp I've heard. And it might be right, but I think you could get a plus for him. I think you could. I would try.
Ken Walker the third or Traylon Burks and a early 23 second?
I think I'll go Walker there, which is crazy.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So Walker, in a few leagues that I was in, I mean, I took the plunge and took him at 102, 103 before Traylon Burks anyway. And nothing that I've seen this year makes me question that. And Walker's got a full-time gig, and Burks not going to play for another, 4 weeks, 3 weeks at least.
Are you going Walker or a mid 23 first?
23 first.
Yeah, especially if it's mid and it's got a shot to be 105. Well, I'll take that pick.
Yeah, because looking at 105, based on a mock draft we just did, I forget who the 105 was, but whoever it was going to be good.
I think it was Levis.
Will Levis?
Ray took Will Levis because it was super flex.
I think the thing with the 105 is you're going to have options. You might get the quarterback 3, you might get the RB3, you might get the wide receiver 1 or 2.
Right.
Whereas if it's 108, you're going to kind of be stuck with whatever you get left. It's still going to be a good profile, but at that point you might go, damn it, my team needed a running back. They've taken 4 of them before my 108 or my 109. Now what do? I wish I could trade that pick for Ken Walker, and on the clock you might not be able to do it. So that's why I prefer the higher pick, just for the flexibility of the choice.
If you want to buy Walker again, it's not the best time in the world to do so, but how would you go about buying him?
So there was this guy earlier, I forget who I was talking to, and he was like, hey, would you give up Devonta Smith or Dameon Pierce? And I was like, yeah. I would do the same tier player. If I want to get really cheap, again, I can go to a team that looks like they're just going to be a crap stick the rest of the season. Hey, you want Sky Moore and Jahan Dotson for Ken Walker? I'd do that. Again, selling high on Jahan Dotson, who has a touchdown. The math isn't correct, but I think it's for every reception he has 3 touchdowns. I'm not sure how that's possible, but it's something like that. And Sky Moore, who, it's only the first half of this game, but it looks like he did not.
Does he have a negative route run?
Yeah, it doesn't look like he built on last week's epic 4-target game. But that's something that I would do. Devonta Smith, guys like that. Can I throw Michael Gallup in 2 seconds at you? Can I give you Kareem Hunt in a second? And I know usually we like to tear down the other way, but the difference is I think Walker is going to be a top 6 running back the rest of the way.
Yeah, this is a player that I have 0 of. I had 1 share. I sold it. What I thought was selling it on the way down, and then boom, now it's going all the way back up. So I'm going to have to find creative ways to do it. I think if I can do what Shane was talking about, and I can move a young receiver that I think people still see as having somewhat high upside, like can I move Elijah Moore in a second, then get Ken Walker, Brandon Ayuk in a second, someone like that. That's good. I think those players are good, but to say they're ever going to be like difference makers, and part of it is they're limited by their offenses too. Like I think we've learned from some of these receivers like Terry McLaurin and DJ Moore that we've invested in. You can tell me, market share all you want. But if they're going to spend 4 seasons stuck in a moderate efficiency, low volume offense, what are you going to get for fantasy? You're probably getting a wide receiver 2 at best. So I think we can put some of those names in there while they still have high name cachet because they're still, second or third year guys. But you can kind of look at their situations and be like, yeah, I might be trading away a really good wide receiver 2, but it's still a wide receiver 2. I might be trading away it's still, 14 to 16 points per game. And if that's all I'm getting, I'd rather have the running back on teams that the way we're building them, I'd rather have that was 1 or 2 running backs in that range and then worry about getting the receivers back with draft picks or through trades than having to trade for higher end running backs. So I think that's how I'm going to try to get some Walker shares. So
what about Ramondre Stevenson and a 24 first or Walker?
See, that's where I'd probably take the package because I like Ramondre Stevenson. Like I don't want to say he could be Kenneth Walker, but like next year he could be in a situation where I'm going to get a year or 2 from him as well. So yeah, I take the package there.
Yeah, you don't want to say it. I'll say it. Ramondre Stevenson could be Kenneth Walker. He's a better receiver out of the backfield. Right. I mean, and the Patriots, for whatever reason, won't use Damian Harris in that role, but they will use Ramondre Stevenson in that role.
And Damian Harris is hurt, and he's a free agent. So I think everything is trending for Ramondre. I know this isn't a Ramondre show, but I won't be shocked if we look up in 2 months and Ramondre Stevenson's a top 18 running back in Dynasty. And we're going like, wow, that came out of nowhere. But
yeah,